Steve Akley, and I'm here at my place, the ABV Barrel Shop in the St. Louis suburb of Arnold, Missouri. And I'm going to be telling a story today, one that, of course, involves an incident involving me and my buddy Royce Neeley. And it kind of falls almost into a format. We always seem to get into some sort of hijinks. We're not looking for this stuff. Some keys that always seem to be part of every story is we're never looking for this sort of thing to happen. It's not like, oh, we're trying to do something and something goes terribly wrong. These things just oddly happen to us. His wife, Becca, tends to get the short end of the stick at some point in the story. This happens again in this one. And at the end of the day, Royce and I tend to be okay. That's the other thing that ends in the story. Somehow, some way, we survive these things. But they tend to be very funny along the way. And sometimes they're not as funny when they're happening to you at the time. But as you look back, you can kind of laugh at them too. So this particular story starts at the 2024 Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So what I have done the last couple of years at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival is I go a couple days early. There's some events, some media type events and things like that I get the opportunity to go to in Louisville or in Bardstown. And I also like to go to some of the distilleries and things like that because many times surrounding the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, they're doing some special releases and drops. They know a lot of bourbon fans are coming to town. So I try to get some of that done as well. And then I just try to see some friends and things like that. I start out early in the week staying in Bardstown. Early in the week, the hotels are still affordable. Once the Bourbon Festival itself kicks in, then hotel prices like double or triple, and I don't have the money to pay for that sort of hotel price. So I tend to leave Bardstown, and then I drive up to my friend the Neeley's house, and I spend the night at their house. And then Royce and Becca, of course, are coming down to the festival anyway, so then I just ride with them. Makes it pretty easy the last couple days. I'm usually there for Friday and Saturday is when I go to the festival. So that was the case this year. I'm there early in the week, having some fun, doing different things and stuff like that. And then at the day when I decide to go up there, I divert. I go over to Limestone Branch. I have a good time hanging out with both Stephen Fonte and Stephen Beam were there. And seeing what those guys got going on. They were all getting ready for the festival and stuff like that. So it was cool. They're good friends of mine, and I enjoyed drinking a cocktail out on the porch. Derek Mattingly makes those. He's the bartender there. Tell him I said hi if you go there. Really good stuff. So have that, and then drive the rest of the way to the Neeley's. I get in, and I'm kind of tired and stuff like that. And, no big deal. I get there, and Royce says, hey, when we go to the festival tomorrow, you're driving. I'm like, what? This is kind of part of my relaxation program. I don't even have to think, and I can go to the festival. He's got to work the booth, so he's not drinking as much. My fun is the fact that I can go and have cocktails and enjoy myself and do whatever I want because I don't even have to think about that because I'm just going to be getting a ride back with him. He busts my whole program because he's like, I got a 4Runner in the back of my truck, and it's in the bed. I don't want to be driving down to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival with this four-wheeler in the back of my truck. It'd be embarrassing. Oh, okay. So I'm driving, so that's fine. We get up on Friday. The plan is engaged. I'm driving. So we get down there, drive all the way to Bardstown. It takes a while. Royce likes to go the back way. It takes forever, by the way. It adds like an hour on there. I end up not going the back way home because I was like, this is ridiculous. And he's like, oh, the traffic, Louisville traffic, don't go. And I get through it. It was fine. I saved myself an hour going back home that night. But that has nothing to do with this story. That's just a little side diversion there. So I drive, we get there, we pull up to the parking lot. Guy is standing there and says, he's like giving this motion, roll down which is still the international symbol for roll down your window is this. Even though you aren't cranking a window anymore, you're just pushing a button. Maybe this should be roll down your window. It's like you do this to mean like push the button to send the window down. But again, he gives us the roll down the window sign. So we pull up. Of course, he's on Royce's side because I'm driving. He stands in the kind of the middle so you can't get in. And then for some reason, he goes to Royce's side. Okay, fine. Window gets rolled down. He says, I need your parking pass. And I was like, oh, great. Royce, hand him the parking pass. We don't have it. Okay. The guy's like, well, then you can't park here. He's like, well, I'm a distillery. I have a booth here. Well, then you should have a parking pass, sir. I don't have it. And then we're at a standstill. He's like, okay, then you're gonna have to leave. And then he's like, well, it's at my booth. And then the guy says, fine, go park somewhere else, go into the festival, grab your parking pass, come back out, go to your car, and then go to the booth. And I'm like, hey, then I jump in. I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. Why don't we do this? We can see the top of his tent from here. He's very close to where we're parking. Why don't we do this? I'll pull up and I will wait in the car. Royce can go get the parking pass and he'll come up. And the guy's like, fine, that will work. Okay, so I pull in and there's no place to just sit there. So I have to pull into a spot. So of course I pull into the first spot that's available, and I'm like, this is just where I'll wait, and then I'll park a little bit, closer to where the tent is when we get there, because then things will be good. And Royce is, as I'm pulling into that spot, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, well, I gotta wait until then. He's like, no, I don't have a parking pass. We're just gonna go in. I'm like, well, what happens with my car? Are they gonna tow this thing? He's like, they won't tow it. But you did make it kind of easy for them to do that because you parked up so close. I'm like, well, I can't move it now. I mean, the guy's standing right there. Of course, he's talking to another car. We got, some time to escape, I guess, but I don't know what's going to happen to my car. He's like, no, we're just going to go there. And then, of course, his wife, Becca, says, Steve, don't worry. He's going to go to the booth. You and I can go look for a pass. And then I'm like, oops. I want to go get in line to they got the Booker's Infinite, and I don't have one of those, and I need one for my collection. She's like, fine, I'll go find a pass. I'll talk to somebody. Somebody's going to give me a pass. We are legitimately here. We are set up. We don't have our pass, but we'll get one. So I go and I get in line, wait for the Booker's Infinite. And then sure enough, I score one. And as I'm leaving the line, got my Booker's Infinite in hand. Then I go over and there's Becca. She's like, hey, don't worry. I got the parking pass. Went in and put it in your car. You're all set. You're legal. We're good to go. Okay, great. So we go through, have a great day at the festival and stuff like that. I do temper my drinking, so I'm not going to be drinking and driving. I do, even though somebody could be like, well, Royce is driving. He's not going to drive my car. There's zero chance of that happening. So I know that I have to drive. So I'm careful, I make smart decisions, which is good. And at the end of the festival, we're leaving, we pull out, and there's a guy. Now, I can't remember, is this the guy from the morning? Is this a different person? But he's like, stop. And again, okay, it should be that, but again, there's not the international symbol yet. So we roll down the window, and he's like, hey, is that the Colonel? And we're like, yeah, it's a Colonel. Yeah. He's like, I love your stuff. I watch your videos and stuff like that. This is so cool. I'm like, oh, well, at least we got somebody friendly. And I'm like, Becca, get out the parking pass, give it to him. And we got the parking pass. He's like, hey, and he starts talking about the video of the day. I see a car pulling behind us. The guy's just like talking still. I'm like, I just want to give him the pass and then get out of there, And car pulls up behind us and they're just waiting there. There's even like 2 lanes open because there is an in and an out, but it's a parking lot for an event. So in the morning, both were open for in. Now they're both open for out, technically. But the car pulls up behind me and is waiting there. And this guy's talking about that, and I'm like, oh, you like my stuff? And again, I'm trying to make small talk so I can ingratiate myself with this guy, because I think we're about ready to get in trouble for the parking pass, because Becca had told me she might have not got the right one that we actually need, but she did have a parking pass. So I'm like, well, if we're friends with this guy, he's not going to give us a hard time about the thing. So I'm like, hey, you saw my video that dropped today? And I told that funny story. Funny story was about Royce Neeley. It was about that guy, that one where we're talking about going to the Beans house for barbecue. He was like, oh, no way, this is Royce Neeley? So then he's talking about that. Becca's rolling her eyes in the back seat. I'm watching the rearview mirror. The car behind me is still not moving. And the guy just starts talking and asking questions and all this. All of a sudden, the car horn of the car waiting behind us honks. And the guy says, I'm fucking talking to the Colonel. Pull around. So the car backs up. I see the car back up. He's still talking about the video and stuff like that. Car backs up and then pulls up next to us. And I look over and it's Stacy Pritchard. Stacy Pritchard runs the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. She's the big boss on site. I get it. She has a boss, Randy, that does the whole thing, is responsible for that. But he's actually in like an air-conditioned room during this whole thing. She's out actually working. It's very hot and it rained that morning. I mean, it's a long, exhausting day for a person who has a great deal of responsibility, who deals with everyone's problems throughout the day. And now she's dealing with yet another problem. Once again, Royce and I. I look over at her. She sees us after she rolls down her window and looks at us. I didn't give her she just rolled down her window on her own. But so she looks at us, shakes her head, and just pulls out. And we thought, oh, God. If Stacy Pritchard is mad with us, we're done. we're done. We'll never get into the festival again. There'll never be a parking pass, anything like that. And we don't have to, our problems don't matter anymore. So we're like, hey, buddy, we got the pass. What do you need? He's like, no, I don't work for the festival. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. You're just a drunk standing in the middle of the road that stopped us. You don't need the parking pass or anything. Like, no, I don't work for the festival. I'm like, damn. So we take off. And of course, Royce is calling Stacy. She picks up. He apologizes profusely on all of her behalf, including Becca. And she was in the car. I mean, you know, she wasn't stopping anything. So she's as equally as guilty as either Royce and I were. That's for sure. So you know, Stacy's like, you know what? It's fine. You guys always get into trouble. And we get in trouble at that festival literally every year for one thing or another. But we're all good. We're friends with Stacy. We live to go to another Kentucky Bourbon Festival. But that's the story of the parking pass situation and the drunk guy that we thought was checking our parking pass, which he wasn't. So there you go. That's the story of the day. See you guys.